Welcome back to the channel. Today I have a 2023 GMC Sierra dually, and in this video I'm going to tell you why this is a better buy than a Ford F450 right now. Special shout out to Jerry Seiner, Buick GMC in South Jordan, Utah. Be sure to give these guys a look up and ask for Francisco if you are in the market for a Buick or GMC or used car. Up front, you guys can see this truck has a really nice appearance. A lot of stuff that you see are going to come standard. For example, these LED headlights are standard across the board. On the Ford F450, the XL is not available with LED headlights. Neither is the XLT. However, you can get it as an option on the Lariat and the King Ranch. However, if you are looking at a higher trim level, the Platinum and the Limited do come standard with LED lighting up front. And something else I love about the GMC is really the styling. I think this is probably one of the most boldest grills you can have. And this is not even a high trim level. Add to that LED fog lights and front parking sensors, this one definitely takes the win. And just so we're on the same page, if you do get a Pro or a SLE, it still will come standard with LED headlights and turn signals. However, the fog lights are not available. And as far as the parking sensors go, you can get these all the way down to a Pro, and this option is not available on any Ford F450. Now, if we look under the hood of this GMC, you will see that this one has an optional 6.6 liter Duramax. If you don't know, this has 445 horsepower, 910 pound-feet of torque. It just made it to an Allison 10-speed transmission. Now, obviously, the Ford has the legendary Power-Stroke diesel, but one thing you have to take into account is this. Not everybody wants a diesel, especially if you drive a lot in the city. So with this truck, you do have the option to get a gas engine. And it actually comes standard too, so it lowers your price point for the GMC Sierra. You also have the availability to have a double cab configuration. So if you don't need this big crew cab, then you can skip it, which will give you a little bit more payload, and it'll also make this truck a little bit shorter too. And I will say, the design of this dually bed is really nice. Love the fact that they give you the steps on the front and rear. And this is something that GM's been doing since 2020. I'm gonna get a little controversial right now, so hang in there with me. This truck has independent front suspension. Most truck guys, including myself, don't really like this configuration, but it does give you a great ride. It also gives you a better turning radius, and it reduces the weight of this truck overall. And as you know, that's very, very, very important when it comes down to your payload, which we'll go over at the end of this video. Now let's talk about the rear suspension, because this is very, very important. Obviously, because if you have a fifth wheel, a lot of that weight is going to hit the back of this axle, right? So what GMC has done, if you get a single rear wheel GMC, you're going to get two overload leaf springs right here. Because this is a dually, they do give you an additional load spring right here. I've looked under a Ford F350 single rear wheel and a dually and an F450, and they all had one overload leaf spring. Now, does that mean that the suspension is not as capable as this GMC? Yes. Yes, I believe so. And it doesn't take a rocket scientist to see that, because having those three additional springs, when they make contact with this bump stop, it's going to help with stability. Now, they do take away a leaf I saw down below. They probably did that for the ride. And I will say, this truck does ride a little stiffer compared to the single rear wheel trucks. Now, here's a video I did a few years back, probably about 2-3 years ago now. And here's the suspension on it. So if you look at the leaf pack, the main one, this looks pretty close to the GMCs. Now, as I mentioned, you only have this one overload leaf spring. And that's why I was saying, like, it seems like the suspension is a little bit more robust. Now, be sure to stay to the end when we talk about the axle ratio on the GMC. Alrighty, we gotta talk about it. We gotta talk about this tailgate. This tailgate is amazing. Check this out. All you have to do, hit those two buttons together, and you literally have a step that is formed. Now, I will say, Ford has something very similar to this, and it works good. But I think that GMC really did a better job freaking this movie because it's just a lot less you have to do. You step inside and boom, you're inside the bed. I bet you if someone were doing it with a Ford and a GMC, someone could do it faster with this tailgate. If you're new to my channel, something I like to talk about is Payload. I absolutely love the Ford F450. Have nothing against the truck. It's a great truck. I almost bought one. But when it comes down to Payload, you're going to have to look at a GMC Sierra 3500 because you're going to have more payload on this truck. Now, I haven't even looked at the payload sticker yet. I just know it's going to have more payload than a Ford F450. So as you guys can see right here, this truck has 5,304 pounds of payload. This truck, it weighs in at 8,696 pounds. The problem with the Ford F450 is it's very much so overbuilt. You have 19.5-inch wheels. You have a 10-lug design. You have that wide front track. You have just a beefier truck overall, really. And what that does is it robs you of your payload. And the reason why that is because of this gross vehicle weight rating. I hope that the manufacturers can meet with DOT and fix this because these trucks have gotten so much heavier because of them, well, not really because of the DOT, but really EPA, because of all the emission stuff, because of all the safety features that these trucks have. These trucks have gotten heavier, so they should raise this by at least 500 pounds for trucks that get over 9,000 pounds. That's just my opinion. And then that way, these trucks could have closer to that 5,900 pound payload capacity. But 5,300 pounds, this is a great truck for that. Like, don't get me wrong, there's not a lot of trailers this truck can't tow. And if you didn't see, the towing numbers are right here. But if you would like, I did a detailed review on this truck. So if you want to see more, be sure to watch the video at the end of this one. Now, one last thing I want to go over in this video is the gross axle weight rating. As you guys saw on the GMC, if you weren't paying attention on the door number, it was 10,500 pounds. And I'm speculating here. I think the reason why that axle ratio is so much higher is because it doesn't have a front solid axle. Because a solid axle is going to be a lot heavier than an independent front suspension. That's my only speculation. So what is it for the Ford? Let's take a quick look at it. This is going to be the door sticker for the F450 you saw earlier in this video. So here's the front gross axle weight rating at 6,000 pounds. Same as the GMC, which is surprising because this has a heavier front axle. And the rear gross axle weight rating is going to be 9,900 pounds. Now, if you don't know this is the same as the Ford F350 dually. And finally, this is the payload for the F450. This was an XLT, so it's a lower trim level. And this truck is basically 444 pounds heavier than the GMC. So a few things. I did mention tires because I feel like it's kind of a wash. You get 19.5-inch wheels and tires on the F450. However, if you would like to do aftermarket wheels and tires, like if you want to do like a 35 by 13.5 or 37-inch tire, whatever you want to do, it's a lot harder to do on an F450 because it has a 10 lug as opposed to the 8 lug. And the tire pressure monitoring on the GMC 3500 is just a lot more comprehensive. You actually have the monitor. I believe that the F450 does not have that. And the last thing I want to mention is when I mentioned the gross axle rating being higher in the rear, and I speculated a little bit because of the independent front suspension, my theory, and I'm just going to give you a little more information on it, I want to hear you guys' thoughts in the comment section below. My theory is, however they designed this truck, I wonder because you do add a lot of weight to the rear, and some of the weight does lift off the front axle, I wonder if that's why the truck does have a higher gross axle weight rating. I don't know. Maybe the independent front suspension has something to do with that. So in the comment section, let me know your thoughts. But I hope the video was helpful. Be sure to comment down below. See you soon.